Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going way back in time, like way back to the dawn of civilization.
Really setting the Wayback Machine here.
We're talking Genesis chapter 10,
Oh, wow.
a section you might know as the Table of Nations.
Yeah, it's essentially this huge family tree. It traces the lineage of Noah's sons after the flood,
Okay.
and it shows how they spread out to populate the world.
So like after they get off the ark, it's like, okay, where does everybody go from here?
Exactly. It's like an ancient attempt to map out human history, you know?
So we're not just talking a boring list of like so-and-so begat so-and-so.
No.
We're talking about like the origin stories of different cultures and languages.
Exactly.
Maybe even some of those epic tales we've all heard about. Like,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
don't know, like the Tower of Babel.
That's right. And this chapter, it really sets the stage for so much of what comes later in the Bible.
Okay.
We're going to encounter some pretty fascinating figures,
Okay.
like Nimrod, the mighty hunter.
Ooh, he sounds cool. You can just feel the ambition radiating off of this guy.
So you're telling me, like, there's a chance my family tree could stretch back to one of these guys?
It's possible.
Now that's what I call a deep dive.
This is deep.
Where do we even begin with the story this massive?
Well, let's start with Japheth,
Okay.
one of Noah's sons.
Mm-hmm.
His descendants, they're generally associated with the lands far beyond, where the Israelites lived.
Okay.
Like, think way out there.
Hmm.
The commentary even suggests that it includes places like the British Isles.
Wow. So we're talking serious globetrotters here.
Yeah, big time.
Wait, so does that mean, like, we could link early Christianity in places like Britain back to this chapter?
It's a pretty compelling connection, right?
Yeah.
The commentary actually highlights a link to a prophecy in Isaiah
Okay.
about these far-off lands waiting for God's law.
Okay.
It's almost like a foreshadowing of Christianity eventually spreading to those regions.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Good.
So Japheth's line stretches across continents, potentially setting the stage for some major religious shifts.
Yeah.
Who's next on this family tree?
All right, so next we move on to Ham,
Okay.
another one of Noah's sons.
Mm-hmm.
His descendants are linked to regions in Africa and the Middle East.
Okay.
And this is where we meet the infamous Nimrod.
Ah, yes, Nimrod, the mighty hunter.
That's him.
I always kind of pictured him as some sort of like ancient superhero,
Oh, yeah.
but I have a feeling there's more to his story.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The commentary paints him as this really powerful and ambitious figure.
Okay.
He establishes a kingdom that includes cities like Babel.
Wait, Babel, like the Tower of Babel?
The very same.
Isn't that the story about humans trying to like build a tower to heaven,
That's the one.
getting a little too big for their britches?
Exactly. And the commentary kind of suggests that Nimrod's ambition and his drive for power
Yeah.
might have been a bit, shall we say, excessive.
Okay.
Almost like he's the embodiment of that age-old warning about power corrupting.
So we're talking like ancient world CEO, empire builder, maybe even a touch of dictator vibes.
Yeah, you could say that.
That's a far cry from, a hunter gathering berries in the forest.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
The commentary uses Nimrod as an example
Okay.
of what can happen when ambition goes completely unchecked.
Okay.
It's like a cautionary tale for all of us,
Yeah. Yeah.
reminding us to kind of keep our own ambitions in check.
It's like that saying absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Right.
You see that playing out throughout history from emperors to,
Yeah.
maybe even like some of those tech giants we were talking about earlier.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And before we move on from Ham's line,
Okay.
we should also mention the descendants of Canaan,
Okay.
who inhabited the land that would later be promised to the Israelites.
Okay.
This includes the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh, wow. Those names definitely ring a bell.
Yeah.
Aren't they known for, well, let's just say, not exactly being model citizens?
Let's just say their reputation precedes them. It's a story that captures the imagination even thousands of years later.
Okay, so we've got globe-trotting explorers, ambitious empire builders,
Mm-hmm.
and cities that seem to exist somewhere between history and legend.
It's a good mix.
What's next on this whirlwind tour of ancient genealogy?
Finally, we come to Shem.
Okay.
His descendants include Eber,
Okay.
the ancestor of Abraham and the Israelites.
Ah, so this is where the story really starts to connect.
Yes.
With that familiar narrative of the Israelites.
Precisely. And here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm ready.
Shem's descendants, despite receiving what might seem like a less impressive inheritance
Huh.
compared to Japheth and Ham,
Mm-hmm.
they actually end up inheriting something far more significant.
Mm-hmm.
the divine blessing.
It's like that saying, the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yes.
But in this case, it's more like the faithful shall inherit the promise.
Exactly. The commentary draws a sharp contrast between Eber, the father of a lineage grounded in faith, and someone like Nimrod, who's driven by worldly power and ambition.
It's almost like the story is setting up this battle between two different paths.
Right.
One focused on earthly power, the other on, spiritual inheritance.
Exactly.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think that tension is still relevant today.
Absolutely. We see it in our own lives, though.
For sure.
That constant push and pull between chasing after worldly success and pursuing a deeper, more meaningful path.
Wow, this chapter is packed with more layers than I ever imagined.
I know, right?
It's not just a list of names, it's a story about ambition and faith, and the choices that shape who we are, both individually and as a people.
You're absolutely right. It's a story that continues to resonate with us today.
Yeah.
It prompts us to reflect on our own values and the kind of legacy we want to leave behind.
I'm already hooked, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, there's so much more.
I can't wait to see what other fascinating figures and stories are waiting for us in this table of nations.
We'll buckle up because we're about to delve even deeper into the world of Genesis chapter 10. Stay tuned.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
It's going to be good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Genesis chapter 10.
Yeah.
We're exploring the table of nations. Before we delve further,
Yeah.
what stood out to you so far? Any surprises?
Oh, definitely. I had no idea how many layers there were to this chapter.
Right.
We're peeling back the pages of history and uncovering these crazy stories about ambition, faith, the choices that shape who we are.
It's pretty incredible, isn't it, how these ancient stories still resonate with us?
Yeah, for sure.
Today, we've already seen how Japheth's descendants spread far and wide, potentially influencing the spread of Christianity to places as far as the British Isles.
Yeah, that blew my mind. It's like we're tracing the roots of Western civilization back to this ancient genealogical account.
It's pretty amazing.
Talk about feeling connected to the past.
Speaking of powerful figures, Ham's lineage introduces us to someone who takes ambition to a whole new level. Nimrod.
Right, Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord.
That's him.
He's a figure who seems to evoke both awe and caution.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
The commentary really delves into his character, highlighting his ambition, his strength, his role as a kingdom builder. He's credited with establishing cities like Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh, all in the land of Shinar.
Wow, those names sound straight out of a history book.
They do, don't they?
It's incredible to think that these ancient cities have roots that go back this far.
I know it is. And of course, we can't forget Babel.
Right.
The city associated with the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
You know, that iconic story of human ambition and overreaching?
Yeah, the Tower of Babel. That's a story that stuck with me since I was a kid. That image of humans trying to build their way to heaven, only to have their languages confused and their plans scattered.
It's a powerful story, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it raises some interesting questions.
Yeah, like what are the limits?
Yeah, about human ambition and the limits of our power. The commentary seems to suggest that Nimrod might have embodied some of those same tendencies.
Oh, really?
Perhaps even playing a role in that whole tower debacle.
So Nimrod might be more than just an ambitious king. He might be the poster child for what happens when we try to reach beyond our grasp to play God, as it were.
Exactly. It's a warning that still rings true today, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. We see in so many areas of modern life. You know, the relentless pursuit of power, wealth, technological advancement. Sometimes we forget that progress can have unintended consequences.
That's true.
And that pushing boundaries without considering the ethical implications can lead to some disastrous results.
It's a sobering thought,
yeah,
but a necessary one.
But let's shift gears for a moment. What about the other descendants of Ham?
Okay.
We briefly mentioned the Canaanites and Sodom and Gomorrah, but those names carry a lot of weight.
They do. Those stories are often used to illustrate the consequences of wickedness and rebellion against God. But it's important to remember that these narratives were written within a specific cultural and historical context.
So while we might not interpret them literally today, we can still appreciate their deeper meaning and the timeless themes they explore.
Exactly. They invite us to reflect on the consequences of our choices, the importance of justice and righteousness, and that ongoing struggle between good and evil that's woven throughout human history.
It's like those stories act as mirrors reflecting back to us our own capacity for both great good and great evil.
I like that.
Okay, so we've got globe-trotting explorers, ambitious kings, and cities that seem to exist somewhere between history and legend.
We've got it all.
I'm ready for the next chapter in this family saga. Who comes next?
Next, we turn to Shem, whose descendants are particularly significant because they include Eber, the ancestor of Abraham and the Israelites.
Okay, so this is where we start to connect with the lineage that will eventually lead to the Jewish people and the story of the Bible as we know it.
Precisely. And what's fascinating here is that while Shem's descendants might not have received the most impressive territories or worldly power,
Okay.
compared to Japheth and Ham,
Uh-huh.
they inherit something far more valuable,
Okay.
the divine blessing.
It's almost like a reversal of expectations. In the story, worldly success and material possessions take a back seat to something deeper, something more lasting.
Exactly. The commentary really emphasizes this contrast.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about outward appearances or worldly achievements. It's about faith lineage and inheriting a spiritual legacy.
That's such a powerful message, especially in a world that often places so much emphasis on outward success. It's a reminder that true fulfillment often lies in things that can't be measured by material possessions or worldly accomplishments.
And this theme of divine blessing versus worldly ambition.
Yeah.
It's central to the story of Genesis. We see it play out in the lives of various patriarchs and their descendants,
Right.
highlighting the importance of faith, obedience,
Right.
and aligning ourselves with a greater purpose.
It's like a thread that runs through the entire biblical narrative, reminding us that true legacy is built on something much deeper than worldly power or fleeting fame.
Yeah.
It's about the choices we make, the values we uphold, and the impact we have on others.
And those are themes that continue to resonate with us today, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, totally.
They challenge us to examine our own priorities and to seek a deeper meaning in our lives beyond the pursuit of worldly success. It's a reminder that our choices have ripple effects,
Right.
influencing not just our own lives, but the lives of those who come after us.
It's like the butterfly effect, but on a generational scale.
Exactly.
The choices we make today can shape the course of history, impacting the lives of our children, grandchildren, and beyond.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's why this chapter is so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just an ancient genealogy. It's a roadmap for understanding the choices that shape our destinies, both individually and collectively.
It's like we're looking at a blueprint for building a meaningful life, a life that leaves a positive mark on the world.
You're getting it. It's about recognizing that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Something that connects us to the past, the present, and the future.
Wow, this is heavy stuff. I'm starting to see Genesis chapter 10 in a whole new light.
Good.
It's not just a dusty old list of names. It's a living, breathing story that speaks to the very core of what it means to be human.
You said it. And we're just getting started.
What?
There's so much more to uncover in this table of nations.
I'm ready for more. Bring on the next chapter in this epic family saga.
Well, buckle up because we're about to delve even deeper into the world of Genesis 10.
Okay.
Exploring the stories and themes that continue to shape our understanding of history, culture, and the human experience.
I'm on the edge of my seat. This is what I love about the deep dive. You never know where these explorations will lead. Welcome back to the deep dive. Exploring this table of nations in Genesis chapter 10 has been quite a journey.
It has, hasn't it?
We've encountered ambitious kings, globe-trotting explorers, and cities shrouded in myth and legend. It's amazing how these ancient stories can feel so relevant even today.
It really speaks to the power of these narratives.
Yeah.
You know, they offer us a glimpse into the human experience across time and cultures.
Yeah.
The same desires, ambitions, and struggles that these ancient figures faced, they're still with us today.
Absolutely. I mean, we started with Japheth's descendants spreading across continents, potentially even influencing the early spread of Christianity.
Right.
Then there's Nimrod, the ultimate empire builder, whose story feels like a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition.
Yes.
And let's not forget Shem's line, inheriting the divine blessing, a reminder that true legacy isn't always measured by worldly success.
You've hit the nail on the head. Each of these lineages offers a unique perspective on what it means to leave a mark on the world. But beyond these individual stories, what's really fascinating to me is this overall concept of a table of nations. This ancient attempt to create a genealogy that links different peoples and cultures to a common ancestor.
Right. It's like they were trying to map out the entire human family tree long before we had DNA testing and ancestry websites.
I know, right?
It's a bold undertaking, to say the least.
It is. And while modern scholarship suggests a more complex picture of human migration and cultural development, I think the impulse behind the Table of Nations is still relevant today.
Okay.
It speaks to that deep-seated human desire to understand our origins.
Yeah.
To trace our roots back to a common source.
It's like we're all searching for that sense of belonging, that connection to something larger than ourselves.
Right.
And this idea that we might all be part of one big interconnected human family. Well, that's pretty powerful.
It is. It challenges us to look beyond our differences, to see the common threads that bind us together as a species.
Yeah.
And in a world that often feels increasingly divided. I think that's a message we need to hear more than ever.
I couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Genesis chapter 10, what's the one thing you hope our listener will take away from this exploration?
I hope they'll walk away with a sense of wonder and curiosity about the past, a realization that these ancient stories aren't just dusty relics, but living narratives that continue to shape our understanding of the world and ourselves.
And that even though thousands of years separate us from these ancient figures, we're still grappling with the same fundamental questions about ambition, legacy, and what it means to live a meaningful life.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes exploring these ancient texts so rewarding.
Yeah.
They invite us to engage in a dialogue across time, to learn from the wisdom of our ancestors, and to find inspiration for navigating the complexities of our own lives.
Beautifully said. So to our listeners, as you go about your day, maybe you'll look around and see the world through a slightly different lens.
I hope so.
Remember that you're part of a story that stretches back through millennia, a story that connects you to every other human being on this planet. And the choices you make today, no matter how small they may seem, have the power to shape the course of that story for generations to come.
That's a powerful thought, isn't it? We're not just passive observers of history. We're active participants in shaping its course.
That's right.
And with that realization comes a sense of responsibility, a call to live our lives with intention, purpose, and a deep respect for the interconnectedness of all things.
What a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Genesis chapter 10. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of the ideas that shape our world.